What's up, guys? It's Corbin, Connor. Hey, what's up? It's the Fantasy Football Show. We're talking about the greatest fantasy league that's ever been created. What's the name of our league? What is it? Noah, something about football. I don't know.
We don't keep up with these days. It changes every year. Don't be a loser in our league.
Yeah, because if you're a loser, you get put on the league name. And neither of us are losers. No. Noah's definitely a loser. I mean, Michael's a loser. Cody definitely is a loser. When's the last time Cody's had a winning season? Never mind. We'll talk about that later. But welcome to our first episode. We were going to do a podcast, but we decided, what the heck? Let's do a freaking video. So here we are. We're about to get sweaty. What's the name of our episode today? It's
Getting Sweaty and Smitty Picks.
Yeah.
We're going over the draft, talking about some draft picks, good picks, bad picks, best overall team, worst overall team.
And then we're getting psyched for the opening of the first week of fantasy football in the NFL. And we're going to get sweaty for it.
Absolutely. So, ready to get started?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go.
So, getting sweaty. We're diving into the first round. 9 running backs went in the first round.
Kind of crazy.
Really crazy. Definitely didn't expect that to go down like that. The first 3 went about as they should. Barkley, Kamara, McCaffrey. And then Cody takes Zeke Elliott. Now that we know Zeke Elliott has signed his 6-year, $90 million contract. But at the time of the pick, Cody was risking it for the biscuit. How do you feel about that?
He got the biscuit. He got all the biscuit. And so does Zeke. Zeke really got the biscuit. I mean, a lot of money. But turned out to be a really good pick. You know, one of the best picks of the draft, honestly. Cody put his, his tennis balls in the court of fantasy football. And then the fantasy gods hit him right back to him and said, here you go, Cody. Here's your balls back.
Yeah. And then Jess comes back around and takes Todd Gurley a little earlier than most would predict. But certainly not the worst pick of the first round, I would say.
I like the boldness of Jess. I think Jess really, put it all on the line. And, that's what Jess is really famous for, is making those controversial picks, especially in the first round. And, it always has turned out good for him. So why not this year again?
Indeed. So Tyler takes David Johnson. That's about the right pick. Le'Veon Bell then goes to Matt at 7. Steven takes James Conner at 8.
I mean, not a bad pick, but, Devontae Adams is still on the board.
Yeah, I would say it was a little controversial. You had Devontae Adams on the board. You had DeAndre Hopkins on the board.
Yeah.
All those running backs, all those receivers were on the board. Most would project that you take one of those. But certainly don't hate the pick either.
No, I don't hate the pick. I mean, there's a pick that's going to be right after Steven, which I absolutely think is terrible. But, for Steven James Conner, James Conner, he's going to get the volume. He's on a great offense. He's going to be an RB1. In the first round, if you can come away with a legit RB1, you do that if you can, man.
Absolutely. So Steven takes James Conner. Now Britton at 9 takes Joe Mixon.
What a terrible pick.
So
terrible pick.
Joe Mixon goes first round. I don't hate the pick. Personally,
I don't hate the pick, but you sure don't love it. You sure don't love it.
Here's my thing with the pick. Personally, I would have probably taken DeAndre Hopkins
or Devontae Adams.
Or Devontae Adams. Either one would be a good pick. However, I don't completely hate the pick because, one, Britton avoided a situation that Noah kind of put himself in, and we'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah.
But Britton taking Joe Mixon was a little bit of reach, yeah, sure, but I still don't think it's not an unsafe pick. It's still a safe pick. Joe Mixon was still going to go mid-early second round, I think.
Here's why I think it's a terrible pick. There's only 2 reasons. One, there's the top receivers on the board. You can get Hopkins or Devontae Adams. And those guys are going to get you double digits every single week. They're going to put up high teens, early 20s in points. They're going to be legit. Right? This is where I come into not liking Joe Mixon. I think there are better running backs still on the board. You got Dalvin Cook and you got Nick Chubb, who Nick Chubb you have. Love that pick. I think Nick Chubb's going to be top 5 back, minimum until week, 9 whenever Kareem Hunt comes back. But that's their bye week. For fantasy, you're just trying to get to the fantasy playoffs. And, with some recent news about Melvin Gordon with Britain and his RB situation, and Lamar Miller, man, you got to think, man, that's going to be difficult for him to push all the way through. But we'll talk about that later in our season-long predictions.
Yeah, we'll get more into that. So Noah comes back around. We kind of mentioned it. Noah takes Hopkins and Kelsey in the first round.
Yeah. You think it would be good, but no.
So I love the Hopkins pick. I think considering where Noah was in the draft, Hopkins was an excellent pick.
Yeah.
The Kelsey pick was interesting to me because I think all of the receivers, and obviously he took Hopkins, but all the receivers that were still on the board were probably a much better pick than Kelsey. Even I would say Dalvin Cook, given that 9 running backs went in the first round, which is not typical.
You think Noah would know the history of our league in taking running backs, but no, he's going to go be a bonehead and get a drafted player who I think there's a chance that Travis Kelce falls back in the third round to Noah. I don't think it's legitimate chance, but I mean, even if he didn't fall back, you could still get Ertz or Kittle if you want a top-tier tight end, but Noah goes ahead and reaches right in the first pick of the second round. Bold move.
So, it was a bold move, but I think it's still a safe pick. It's not a good pick, and it's definitely a pick that can... I don't think it's a pick that will come back and haunt you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I think Kelsey has a good injury history. He stays healthy. I can't recall the time that he's really gotten hurt. He has Pat Mahomes as his quarterback.
Yeah.
I think it just goes back to ceiling in that I think some of the receivers have a higher ceiling than Kelsey does.
Yeah, so. I do. And I mean, didn't Ertz and Kittle fall past Noah's pick in the third round? I think I could be mistaken, but I mean, Noah, in my sense, you could go away with Adams and Hopkins. You could have the 2 best receivers in fantasy. You can build your team around that. And you can still get a top-tier tight end in the third round, go 0 RB. But then Noah goes to freaking Hopkins and Kelsey, and then he has to end up picking scraps at running back, which I think is going to bite him in the butt.
Absolutely. So we're getting into the second round here. There's several picks in the second round that I absolutely love.
Oh, there's a lot of great picks in the second round.
But Britton comes back in the second round, and I think he really redeems himself. I think Michael Thomas was a really good pick.
Yeah, it's a really good pick.
Probably not the best receiver on the board.
Yeah.
I would argue that Julio or Devontae Adams were the best receiver on the board, but I think Thomas is the safest pick.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Thomas is a great receiver, but with the Saints offense, there was games last year where Michael Thomas was not in their game plan at all. He didn't show up. And you can get a guy in Devontae Adams who literally every single game last year didn't have one bust. He never busted. He always had over 12, 15 points a game in fantasy. And if you can get that from any position, man, I'll take that any day. But, I mean, he goes with Michael Thomas, a really boomer bust type of receiver. But, I mean, it's still, you can't blame him for picking one of the top receivers in fantasy.
Absolutely. So I like the Michael Thomas pick. Steven takes Dalvin Cook.
Good pick.
Who I believe is a good pick.
See, Steven's first 2 picks are great. I love Steven's first 2 picks. He gets 2 potential RB1s. I mean, that's a good way to start your team.
It is a good way to start your team. I think Dalvin's injury history gives you a little bit of concern. Not to mention, Devontae Adams is projected to be a first-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
And he's still on the board at the time that Steven makes that pick. It could be argued that it wasn't the right pick, but it's still a really good pick.
Yeah.
But, of course, Matt takes Devontae Adams with his second-round pick.
Yeah.
And this is the 4th pick of the second round. I think that's an excellent pick. That's a steal considering where other draft strategies have Devontae Adams going.
Yeah.
So I love that pick. I love Tyler's pick of Julio Jones. We start to see all the receivers kind of go in this middle second round area.
Yeah. No, for sure. I mean, a lot of receivers started falling in the draft, and then, I mean, some guys like, Matt and Tyler really got some high-quality players, later on in the draft.
Absolutely. So Tyler takes Julio Jones. I love that pick.
Great pick.
Jess comes around and surprises people a little bit with the Tyreek Hill pick again, but...
I mean, Tyreek was literally the best receiver in fantasy last year, so, I mean, you can't really blame a guy for picking the best receiver in fantasy mid-second round. I mean...
Yeah, so I like the pick. I personally like Odell. I think that's just more of a personal thing. I'd like Odell more than Tyreek Hill. But then again, Tyreek Hill has a much better quarterback. I don't doubt Baker's ability, but I think Pat Mahomes is top 5 quarterback. So he has Pat Mahomes in a very good system. I think Tyreek Hill's injury history is much better than Odell Beckham's, obviously.
Yeah.
So safe pick, not probably how I would have gone, but still a very safe pick.
Yeah.
And then Cody takes OBJ. I love that pick because I think that was a steal, considering where Odell has been going in early second rounds in most other drafts, although our draft is not like most other drafts.
It isn't.
Considering the value that you can get from OBJ can easily be the number 1 receiver.
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically any of the guys in the second round can end up being the number 1, but I mean, OBJ with Baker, he's never had a quarterback that's this good. So it's kind of scary to think about just how good OBJ can be. Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see, man. It's going to be something to watch.
So we get to the 8th pick of the second round. I take Nick Chubb. I don't know why Nick Chubb fell. I think a lot of it has to do with the receiver talent that was on the board, and I definitely appreciate those picks. Personally, I was going to take Odell if Odell fell to me. But Odell didn't fall to me, so I took Nick Chubb.
I hate you for that pick. I really do. I really hate you for that pick.
The more and more I look at it, the more and more I like the pick a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm feeling good about that. Michael took Juju Smith.
I'm pissed at you too, Michael. Y'all guys picked the 2 guys I wanted in the second round, but it's fine. It is what it is.
So solid pick there. I think that was a steal.
Oh, yeah.
No, maybe not steal. It was about the right pick, but very good pick. Puts together a really good team structure for Michael there.
Yeah.
And then you came back around into Kerryon Johnson. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the best running back in the league besides my boy, Saquon. Kerryon Johnson's going to be the top 5 back in fantasy this year. He's going to be nothing but money. He's going to be a good Joe Mixon, sorry, Britton. A great running back on a bad team. He can catch the ball half PPR. You love that. He has breakaway speed. He has one of the best, he's just one of the best gifted runners in the league. And then I followed it up with Devontae Freeman in the 3rd round on one of the best offenses in the NFL. And last time Freeman was healthy, he was like one of the best. I mean, he was a top 5 running back. So, I mean, I like my running back depth going 3 RB. But the only reason I did that is I know our league, there's no way I was going to get a 3rd quality good running back coming back to me. So sometimes you just got to make that pick.
Yeah, let's kind of talk about that pick. So you mentioned that you took Devontae Freeman with that little snake pick there to start off the 3rd round. I think, in my personal opinion, Devontae Freeman is a very good running back.
Yeah.
When he's healthy.
Yes.
And that's the big if. You really took a big swing for this one, and we'll see if it pays off.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. You can never have too many good quality starting running backs. I mean, and the reason why I did this is I knew that in the draft there's going to be some good receivers coming back in the 4th and 5th round. But, I mean, we can touch on some of our, our favorite picks in the rest of the draft if you want to, and then we can kind of get into our next segment. But, I mean, I think one of the best quality picks in the draft, I mean, I don't know. What was your favorite pick in the draft?
My favorite pick of the draft. We'll kind of go through this. We'll look at some of these next few rounds and just kind of hit on your favorite pick and your least favorite pick of each round. So going into the 3rd round, who is your favorite value pick that you think went in that round?
I mean, in the 3rd round, I think my favorite value pick, I mean, it has to be, in the 3rd round, I just think that Mike Evans to Tyler. I mean, Mike Evans fell way farther than I thought Mike Evans was going to go to Mike or you. And, I don't blame y'all's strategy because I went through RB2, and I don't blame Michael because he already had Juju. But, I mean, I was debating on Evans, and I think Evans is just such a quality pick because he's a guy who could go in that 2nd round, and he went mid-3rd round. I mean, that's just a great pick to me, man.
I would have to agree. I think Mike Evans, considering that value, was an excellent pick by Tyler. Mm-hmm. I'm really surprised he fell that far. Just took Adam Thielen right before Mike Evans, which was an odd strategy, very bold strategy to me.
Yeah, that was my worst. That was my least favorite pick of the round, man. I don't see how a guy that he was one of the best receivers in the starting of the year, but like the last 4 weeks of the season fell off a complete cliff. I mean, I can get Jess trying to get 2 solid receivers, but why would you pick Thielen ahead of Mike Evans or Antonio Brown, like, even though Antonio Brown's kind of going through some stuff right now, I mean, I just think those receivers are in a different class from Thielen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that's my least favorite pick. I think Britton taking Melvin Gordon in the third round was my least favorite pick. I think the value...
Actually, yeah, scratch that. That's my least favorite pick. That was the bad pick.
And I can explain. I think the value was good. I think...
At the time, it was good.
Yeah, I think at the time, that's the right time to take Melvin Gordon. My only problem is I don't know if Britton's team was built yet to take a Melvin Gordon.
I mean, I feel like if you're picking Melvin Gordon, you already have 2 stud running backs, and you're just trying to take a swing at a guy. I mean, I personally didn't have Melvin Gordon in my draft plan and even thinking about until the 5th round. I think you have to get some core guys that you know are going to be there. I mean, they're saying now that Melvin Gordon might not play till week 10 if he plays at all this season. So, I mean, by that point, you can be, 2-8, whatever, 0-10. I mean, you think you would want to build your team on a solid foundation of guys who are going to be there and perform and show out. But yeah, it's just a risky pick, man. Very risky pick, especially seeing what Le'Veon did last year.
It is scary. So going into the third round, my favorite pick, I would say, was there's a couple. So I would say Tyler's Chris Carson pick. I think Chris Carson is going to be very, very good this season. That's about right where you would probably want to take Chris Carson. So it wasn't excellent value or anything. But I think considering that Tyler took 2 receivers in the 2nd and 3rd round and then came back and got a Chris Carson to complement David Johnson, I think that's a really good build to his team.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a flashy pick by any means, but I like the pick.
No, I really do like the pick, too. I think Chris Carson can easily be a top 15 back. And, I mean, if what is said of true about David Johnson in Arizona actually fix their offensive line, David Johnson's going to be a beast in that system. So if you compare a top 15 back with a top 10 back, oh, man, but those receivers, you're in good shape.
Very well built. I would say my least favorite pick was Philip Lindsay going early
Steven,
4th round.
You're so stupid.
And I can explain. I would say Steven had already taken 3 running backs prior to that pick, which was interesting enough.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Philip Lindsay isn't the bona fide starter. Like he's top of the depth chart by all means, yes.
I mean,
but
in the 4th round, Steven picked a guy, I mean, who won't even start for him. He literally cannot start the guy. I mean, he has too many players. So one of those guys in the top 4 picks are going to have to be on the bench. I just don't get that, how you pick a guy like that over a starter. It's like a receiver that will actually start for you. You're going to pick a bench player? Oh, my Lord.
So I don't mind the strategy of hoarding all the running backs, but you would think you would
you think you'd hoard good running backs.
That's exactly what I was going
bad
for.
running backs.
You would want to hoard the good running backs,
you
let Chris Carson fall past you. And,
oh, man. I think this would be a good time to go into our next segment. Oh, my goodness.
So you want to introduce that segment?
Yeah, so our next segment is called You're Complete Trash, and Chris should take your place in the league. This is where we're going to go into what we think are probably... We'll each pick our least favorite team. We're going to go into our least favorite team going into the season and how we think Chris should take your place because you're complete trash. I'll let you start it off, Connor.
Yeah, so I'll start it off. I'll say my least favorite team might have to be Stevens. He started off the draft really, really well, going with James Conner and Dalvin Cook, 2 pretty good picks, especially considering where Dalvin Cook went and the history of our league with running backs. I'm surprised Dalvin Cook felt him in the 2nd round where he took him, but coming back and taking Aaron Jones and Philip Lindsay with your 3rd and 4th pick and not taking a receiver, you could have had Amari Cooper or even a Keenan Allen or Brandon Cooks. They're not as good, but now you're looking for Tyler Lockett and Cooper Kupp to be your number 1 and your number 2 guy. And any other team, that's your number 2, maybe your flex player. And I just don't know. I like the strategy there. And obviously, he goes 4 running backs, 4 receivers, and then takes Andrew Luck, who is now retired. At the time, I thought was a pretty good pick considering that Luck was the favorite to win the MVP.
Yeah.
He wasn't healthy at the time of the pick, but ESPN and most other analysts predicted him to be back by the start of the season. But obviously now we see that he's retired and he has to start Tom Brady, who is his backup. And it's just not... It's not a well-built team. He has two defenses who, again, have the same bye week.
Such an idiot.
The Bears is a good defense. I don't deny that, but they had the same bye week. I think David Njoku was not... He was probably the best tight end on the board, but he's still unproven. Mm-hmm. He's very athletic, and he's going to be a good tight end, I think, in this league. But there's so many targets going around to other players on that team that I don't know how much I love David Njoku being my starting tight end. All that to be said, I don't love the way this team was built.
Yeah, I mean, since you picked him, I can't pick him, but I'm telling you right now, Steven, you're the worst team in the league. You picked a player in the 4th round who can't even start for you. Like, I don't know if something is wrong in your brain. I'm concerned for you, Steven. You might be stupid. And you picked a defense. Not only did you pick 2 defenses, you picked 2 defenses with the same bye week. My dog could do better than that. I mean, my wife for sure could do better than that. The list is countless of people who would not make that pick because they actually pay attention to what they're doing in front of them. I definitely think Chris or someone should take your place, or just nobody. Let's just have a bye week. I feel like that'd be better than having you in the league. But and all that being said, I like you a lot, Steven. You're a very great guy. But for my pick, since he picked Steven, I'm going to pick Noah. I love you, Noah. You're my brother. You're the reigning champ, even though I think that should be taken away from you because you're a cheater and you're a liar. But, I mean, other than that, Noah, your team sucks. I mean, you have 2 great players. You have Kelsey and Hopkins. We'll both agree. Kelsey and Hopkins are money, the 2 best in each position.
Very safe picks.
Very safe picks. But other than that, at least Steven has 3 good running backs. One guy in Tyler Lockett who could be good. Noah, besides those 2 guys, you have Marlon Mack was your next pick. Marlon Mack. If he was on waivers, I wouldn't pick him up. I wouldn't pick him up on waivers. You have a guy in Montgomery, David Montgomery. Dude, I don't even know this guy. I don't know anything about him. Who else? Deshaun Watson in the 4th? Are you kidding me? Are you losing your head? You picked Deshaun Watson before you picked your second receiver? You picked a quarterback before your second receiver. Are you messed up in the brain? What is it? Your starting receiver, your second receiver is Jarvis Landry? Jarvis Landry. Are you freaking kidding me? Are we full PPR?
We are half PPR.
Half PPR. So you mean half of a good pick. Because full PPR, Jarvis would be good, but, half PPR, you mean half of a good pick. So, I mean, Noah, I just think that Chris should take your place. You're terrible. Even though you're reigning champ and you're my brother and I love you, dude, bad news bears.
So, those are our 2, we'll say underdogs. We'll be nice and say underdogs in this league right now. But going to the top of the league, what teams do you like? Who structured the team the best?
I mean, I think there's 4 top teams. I think there's 4 teams looking at the draft. There's a lot of good teams, but I think there's 4 teams that are, projecting them out are at least going to be competitive. I mean, at the top, Tyler. I mean, I don't like the Derrick Henry pick. I think Derrick Henry can be game planned out sometimes. But when you have 3 solid running backs and those 2 receivers, I mean, it's going to be hard for teams to put up the points that Tyler's going to put up. I mean, even at tight end, he waited a while, but he got, when you can have a sleeper at tight end when you have that great of a lineup. I think Tyler's just deep all the way around. I think he has great players. I mean, second, I don't want to put myself as second, but I mean, I would go ahead and put Michael at second. I think Michael has a great built team. He has one of the top 2 running backs. He has one of the top 2 receivers. He has one of the top 2 tight ends. And he has a rookie running back in Josh Jacobs, who I think is going to be money. I think Michael just has great quality players at every position that there is in fantasy that I think he's going to be up there. And then we got you. You want to talk about your team? You're the one that drafted him.
Yeah, I'll talk about my team. So I take McCaffrey with the 3 pick. Personally, I wanted that to happen. I liked McCaffrey a little bit more going into the season than Kamara. Honestly, if Zeke didn't hold out, I probably would have taken Zeke just because.
We don't admit that to Cody. You're admitting that to Cody right now. Now Cody's like, haha. Don't admit that. He wanted to take McCaffrey. Zeke sucks.
I wanted to take McCaffrey.
Yeah.
So I took McCaffrey. I got Nick Chubb. I think Nick Chubb potentially can be an RB1 week to week, at least till week 8.
I mean, I think right now Nick Chubb is better than outside when you get the top 4. I think he's number 5. I don't think there's any better running back than him right now going into the season.
Yeah, and I get the risk. I get that Kareem Hunt was a top 10 quarterback last season and that he's really, really good.
Yeah.
Now we have like further information, while we're filming this video prior to when I took him in the league. I mean, Kareem Hunt obviously is suspended, but he's also dealing with an injury. He's going to have surgery. He won't be back until week 10 now. So it's looking more like a good pick. I like my pick. I took Fournette with the 3rd round.
Yeah.
Probably not the best pick. I probably should have taken Mike Evans. He would have provided more value at least with that pick, or it would have been the right pick. Not more value, but it would have been the right pick. But I like Fournette because I knew there was no other running back that was going to fall back to me other than maybe like a Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram, and I just wasn't interested in starting one of those guys in that position.
Oh, no.
So I went ahead and reached for a Fournette. Honestly, the guy was a first-round pick last year.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong in that pick. If it's kind of with the Devontae Freeman thing. I mean, if Fournette is healthy, he's going to be a top 15 running back. Put it in the bank. I mean, he gets the carries. They feed him the rock. I thought it was a quality pick.
So
I mean, at the 4th spot, I would put my team. I think if you compare a guy like Saquon Barkley, if you compare him with 2 other legit potential top 15 running backs, 2 receivers that I think can be top 15 guys in Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods. The reason why I picked 3 running backs back to back was I was hoping those guys would fall back to me. And then, I mean, Booty Scoot and Cam Newton, I mean, he's injured right now. I don't know if I'll be able to start him week 1, but I think when he gets healthy, he's going to be a rock. I got a sleeper tight end, Vance McDonald. Antonio Brown's gone. Somebody has to catch the ball. I mean, I'd put my team at 4, and then a close 4th though. I'd put Matt's team. Matt's first 3 picks. Let's look at his first 3 picks. We got Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Adams, Antonio Brown. Even his 4th pick, Zach Ertz. Those are 4 great picks. The reason why I would put Matt's team at 5th is running back depth. I think Le'Veon is kind of up in the air. You don't really know how good he's going to be without the amazing Steelers offense. And then besides him, I mean, I'm looking at Matt's running backs. Matt has a guy, Mark Ingram, and like how you kind of touched upon it, and Tariq Cohen, who are 2 guys who might end up being backups this season. Mark Ingram at best can be an RB2, like a low-end RB2. The Ravens have too many running backs. Too many good running backs. So, I mean, I'd put a close 5th for Matt.
I can speak that. Especially at the time of the draft, the Antonio Brown pick was the right pick.
It was the right pick. But now...
Extremely good value at the time of the draft. Right now, we're getting a lot of information that Brown is going to be suspended, and now people are talking about whether he's going to play or not.
I mean...
It's just an unfortunate situation. I don't fault Matt for that pick. I think it was a good pick. Coming back and taking Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is easily the second best tight end. So I like that pick. I agree with you that Cohen and Ingram are a little... It can be a little scary there.
I mean, from a guy who had crappy running backs as their second RB spot last year, you don't want to have to be searching waiver wire for your RB2. You just don't want that. And then when it comes to bye week when Le'Veon's out, if Le'Veon is having a great season, I mean, Matt's going to be in a bad place. And especially starting this week, Antonio Brown isn't going to play. And now we're getting news that Julio Jones might not even play week 1. So 2 of our top teams heading into week 1 are going to be without one of their key players.
It'll be interesting. But going back to Matt's team, just to kind of close it off with this, I think Aaron Rodgers, considering where Matt took him, was a really good pick.
Yeah.
I think that is something that can really help your team when you are struggling at running back.
Especially since he has Davante Adams too. I mean, whenever Aaron Rodgers is going to throw that long touchdown bomb to Davante Adams, dude, that's going to be a big point jump. Matt, I'm excited to watch your team tonight. To see Aaron Rodgers throw some TD passes to my boy Davante Adams. I'm kind of sad I didn't get him this year, but
I'm on board. I think Matt's team is well drafted. We'll see with the results because of the Antonio Brown situation, but considering when we drafted, I think the team was well drafted.
I do too.
So you want to go into our next segment?
Yes. So I mean, our next segment is just gonna be. Oh yeah, here's the name of it. It's gonna be called Winners and Steven. I was gonna say winners and losers, but you can just substitute Steven for that. Winners and Steven. It's gonna be our weekly prediction for the upcoming week of matchups in our fantasy league, the greatest fantasy league that's ever been created. So we're gonna kind of go into some of the matchups, and we're gonna give our prediction for that matchup, except for the games that we are involved in. So if Connor has a game, I'm going to make the prediction for his game. My game, he's going to make the prediction for my game. So we're going to get into some weekly predictions.
So going into our first game, we have God Me My Gordon Saver, which is going to be Britain's team. That's a really good name, too.
That is
and Beanie Weenies, who's going to be Jess's team.
Jess.
So Corbin, you want to start this off with this matchup?
Yeah. I mean, you have two teams coming into the season. I mean, one of these teams is definitely going to take a hit, and that's going to be Britain. You don't have one of your top 4 picks coming into the game. I mean, in this matchup, I just think you have to go with Jess. I mean, Todd Gurley is healthy right now. Sean McVay said it today. There's not going to be a play count for him. They're just going to let him go and let him loose. So, I mean, you pairing that with Patty Mahomes, Tyreek Hill. I know they're going against Jacksonville, but it doesn't really matter what team they're going against. Patty Mahomes is going to put up points. And then, I mean, all the way around, feeling O.J. Howard. I mean, the only spot I kind of question Jess's team at is his flex spot with Allen Robinson. I don't know if that's a good flex player you want to roll out on your team. But, I mean, compared to Britain's team, I mean, this week he has a good starting quarterback in Matt Ryan. But, I mean, Joe Mixon against Seattle, they just got clowny, man. I mean, I think Mixon's going to be tackled in the backfield a lot. And then you're starting a guy in Darius Geis who hasn't even played an NFL game this year. You have a great player, Michael Thomas, a guy, Amari Cooper, who's going to put up points. But then at tight end and then his flex spot, Chris Godwin and Jared Cook at tight end. I just think those are kind of iffy because those are guys that, are potential good players this year. But they haven't really been great in the league yet. I mean, Jared Cook was good for tight ends last year. But, I mean, on the Saints, tight ends have really never done good with the Saints. So, I mean, it remains to be seen. But with this matchup, I'm going with Jess.
So we'll see. I'll give my 2 cents. I think if we're looking at head-to-head matchups, and I think that's going to be the key to this game specifically. Obviously, Pat Mahomes versus Matt Ryan on paper, and we're looking at statistics here. I think it's pretty close. Like
it is pretty close. I mean,
like,
but the one thing
obviously, you have the eye test. We look at both of them. We see obviously that Pat Mahomes is much more athletic. Mm-hmm. Much better arm. Pat Mahomes is probably the better quarterback, but statistically, Matt Ryan has proven to be a really good fantasy quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great fantasy quarterback, but one thing you have to keep in mind, if Julio doesn't play this week and he's going against the Minnesota Vikings, I mean, Xavier Rhodes is going to be dripped all over Calvin Ridley. That's going to be his best option. I mean, I think the Vikings defense is still one of the top defenses in the league. So, I mean, I still would go with Patty Mahomes in that matchup versus Matt Ryan.
I agree. But we look at Joe Mixon versus Todd Gurley. I think Todd Gurley is probably the better running back, but we shall see. Joe Mixon is also playing a tougher Seattle defense.
Yeah, this is very
just acquired Jadeveon Clowney.
I mean, I think you still got to go Gurley, even if there's huge question marks around Gurley. I mean, Joe Mixon going against Seattle versus Todd Gurley going against anybody. So, man, you got to pick Gurley in that one.
I would probably lean Todd Gurley there. This is going to be super interesting to me. Mm-hmm. Darius Geis versus James White. Yeah. Now, James White is probably going to be the pass-catching guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're going to hand Sony Michel the ball most of the time. And this is Jess's running back, too. This is a guy he trusts at RB2. And this is going against the Darius Geis that really blind to. We have no idea what to expect from Darius Geis going into this matchup. He is playing Philly, who has a really good defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the scary part. First NFL game against a great defense. This is kind of, it's too scary for me. I want to take the for sure thing in a running back here, especially in half PPR that you know is going to get 5 to 6 catches a game. So, I mean, it's definitely, for me, his second running back spot, I think, might be weaker than Britton's in the long season stretch. Mm-hmm. But for this matchup, in my personal opinion, I would rather go James White than Darius Geis.
I think I would probably swing Darius Geis. Like I said, it's unpredictable how good he actually is and how good he's going to do.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's injury history there. He's playing against a tough defense, but I'm interested to see. We're going in blind here.
Yeah.
I know this guy is going to carry the ball in addition to catch passes, so I like that upside more than James White. But I think that is going to be the key matchup to this head-to-head showdown. Other than that, I would lean Britton with wide receiver 2, Amari Cooper versus Adam Thielen, but that's still pretty close.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
The tight end race is...
I mean, it's kind of iffy, but the one thing about it is on the Saints, a tight end could, be great one week and then the next week bust. We saw with Kobe Fleener a few years back. We thought Kobe Fleener was going to be money on the Saints, but it didn't turn out that way. So, I mean, I would go with O.J. Howard. He has a lot more hype around him against a bad San Francisco defense. And then, I mean, when it comes to flex, though, I would probably lean Britton with Chris Godwin over Allen Robertson, especially with the matchups that they have this week. Overall, though, I think that Jess just has two. I think at Jess's key positions, for both teams, Jess has better matchups in my opinion, and better guys that we've seen production from. And Britton has some guys who we haven't seen have great weeks in the NFL. So I'd lean Jess in this matchup.
I would probably lean Jess in this matchup.
Okay.
I think the two key pieces for Britton are going to be Darius Geis, and I really like the late Cowboy edition, throwing them into the lineup with them playing the Giants. I think that could help Britton in the long run, considering that the Vikings are playing Atlanta.
Yeah.
So that one's so iffy if Julio plays or not. That could affect it. But overall, ESPN has it at 51% going to Jess. So we shall see. We both picked Jess in that matchup. Like I said, I think mine is purely just player matchup based more so than who has a better team overall and who's going to be better overall this season. But we shall see. The next matchup we have, Corbin, is going to be you. Against you versus Steven.
Steven? I'm going against Steven? Do you even need to talk about this matchup? I mean, you can kind of go over it, but
we'll go over it just a little bit. So we have Tom Brady going against Cam Newton. Tom Brady he's the GOAT. He's the greatest of all time. But he's playing against Pittsburgh, who has a pretty underrated defense, I like to think. We also kind of seen last season where he kind of started to slow down, not play as well. So long Cam Newton plays this game, I like Cam Newton a little more than Tom Brady. Saquon and Kerryon versus Dalvin Cook and James Conner. Obviously Saquon can go off. Saquon's still a mystery to me. He is athletically by far the best running back, I would say.
Better than AP.
So he could easily put up over 20 points.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what he's projected at currently, but Saquon. So I like him over James Conner. But Dalvin Cook versus Kerryon Johnson should be pretty even.
Yeah.
Atlanta's defense is middle of the pack, but I love Kerryon playing against Arizona. So I'd probably lean Kerryon there.
Money.
And then the receiver matchup is probably gonna be the key piece to this game. You got Stephon Diggs and Robert Woods going against Cooper Kupp and Mike Williams.
Mike Williams? Wait.
Mike Williams.
Is that? Oh, he's on the Chargers. I'm sorry, I had to remind myself who that was.
So I like Cooper Kupp. I don't like Cooper Kupp as my wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
So, and it's going to be interesting to see who gets most of the receptions between Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. That's going to probably play a contributing factor in this matchup. But Mike Williams, playing against Indy. Indy has a good defense. Mike Williams has proven to be a good receiver, especially in the red zone, but doesn't rack up a ton of yardage. So you're leaning on Mike Williams being a touchdown guy, and I don't love that. Vance McDonald versus David Njoku. We got 2 crapshoot tight ends technically, but I still probably like Vance McDonald a little bit more than David Njoku, just because David Njoku is sharing the ball with Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry and Nick Chubb and plenty of other guys on that Cleveland team. And lastly, you have Aaron Jones versus Devontae Freeman. In theory, I think Devontae Freeman's a better running back than Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is also going against a very, very good Bears defense tonight. So that one will be interesting. I don't know what to expect and what to get from those 2 guys. I think it'll probably be close, considering that Freeman's going against Minnesota, and that's a very good defense. Yeah. And then Browns defense versus Bills defense, I don't know. I like the Bills playing against the Jets. I think that's a really, really good matchup, and the Browns are playing against Tennessee, which is also probably a really good matchup. So I'm definitely going to swing towards Corbin's side. ESPN has a pretty close game. It's more 51% going to Corbin and then 49% going to Steven. So ESPN has it as a close game. I like Corbin a little bit more than Steven, but we shall see. We shall see.
Oh, yeah.
And so our next matchup is going to be Tyler versus Matt. So Benny Wells and the Beans versus DJ. And who you liking in this matchup?
I mean, for me, I think you got to go with Tyler. I mean, Tyler coming into this week, I like his matchups better. I mean, I like David Johnson going against the Lions. I like Chris Carson going against Cincinnati. If the big factor for me, though, is if Julio Jones plays. If Julio Jones plays, I think is going to be money for Tyler. And I like Tyler's running backs better. I mean, I think Matt rolling out Mark Ingram and Tariq Cohen in his lineup, man, I just think that is very risky. You're running out 2 guys who, at flex, I mean, Tariq Cohen at the flex position, I mean, that's kind of rough. I just like Tyler's overall running backs better, especially since knowing that Antonio isn't going to play this week. Matt has that, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams matchup going out, but they're going against a great defense in the Bears. So, I mean, for me, you got to go with Tyler.
Yeah, we have ESPN swinging towards Tyler, 53% win probability for Tyler. But I would say I like Tyler's team more this week than Matt's. Mm-hmm. Mark Ingram in the long run will be interesting, but this week playing against Miami, I like. Yeah. I think that's a good start. I'm not sure if I love it as my running back 2. No. It really affects Matt's team that Antonio Brown's not playing. If all this, starts to settle down and he is for sure suspended, because it's still a probability that he's suspended. We don't know for sure if he's going to be suspended. Yeah. There's a lot of beef out right now, obviously, and we seem to think that he's going to be suspended, but it's still not a certain thing. So I think that can play a big factor in this week. And then you nailed it with the Julio Jones. That could be a big factor, whether he plays or not. Julio is obviously Julio Jones. So having him out really affects your team.
Man, we've both been Julio lovers in the past. We love ourselves some Julio Jones.
I do love some Julio Jones.
Oh, yeah.
I like the Ravens defense start for Matt. I think that's his only defense, but playing against Miami, now trading Laramie Tunsil.
Matt might get 20 points from the Ravens defense this week.
And I think that could be a big piece in if Matt were to win this game, that could be huge. Yeah. They're playing Ryan Fitzpatrick, who
turnover machine, dude.
Yeah, turnover machine. So long Fitzmagic doesn't come out, turnover machine. I think they're going to be the most sacked team in the NFL. So we should see. But I think the key way, if Matt were to win this game, I think it's going to be the Ravens defense and Mark Ingram running all over Miami. Other than that, I think it's a pretty good matchup. I would definitely pick Tyler if I were to bet my life on it. But I think it's going to be probably one of our better matchups this week.
I think so.
Next, we have Benny Wells Weenies versus Return of the Cox. So Michael versus Noah. So how are you liking this matchup?
I mean, I'm going with the team who I think has just a better overall team. And that's Michael. I think Michael just has better players at every position, especially against Noah. I mean, running back wise, Alvin Kamara and Josh Jacobs versus Marlon Mack and David Montgomery. I don't think you can even there's no comparison when it comes to running backs. I think Michael definitely has the edge over Noah. Juju and Hopkins, I mean, Juju's going against New England, so I think Juju might be limited this week in his production just because he's going against the defensive mastermind in Belichick, who I think that they're going to just take away Juju from the Steelers and say, beat us another way. And I think Hopkins is going to have a good week, but I mean, otherwise, I don't like either of their receiver twos this week. T.Y. Hilton and for Michael and Jarvis Landry for Noah. I don't like either of them, honestly. They're both kind of trash, in my opinion, especially for starting for your team. Tight end, you got Kittle versus Kelsey. So usually Noah going into a week will have the advantage at tight end, but not this week so much. I mean, Kittle is going against the Tampa Bay, man. So Kelsey's going against Jacksonville. I think Michael might have the edge at tight end this week. And I think against Noah, if he's going against a team and they have the edge at tight end whenever Noah spent such a high pick on Kelsey, I think Noah's just doomed to lose from that point. But, yeah, I'll go with Michael. Especially, Austin Eckler, and his flex this week. I think that's going to be money.
I would probably have to agree. I would lean towards Michael this week. I think it's going to be an interesting week. I think we're going to learn a lot about both their teams. I think we'll learn a little bit about Josh Jacobs. Obviously, he's a rookie. If AB doesn't play, I think he could be the key guy. But we'll learn. We'll see how that goes. He's playing against a pretty tough defense with Denver. But I think what's going to come down to this matchup is I like Michael's running backs better than I like Noah's running backs. You got Marlon Mack playing against the Chargers, who has a really good defense.
Really good defense.
And they're starting Jacoby Brissett. So that'll be
good
interesting.
Good luck, Noah.
We'll learn a little bit about David Montgomery, who isn't...
I'm excited to see the game tonight, man. First game of the season.
I am. We'll learn a little bit about David Montgomery and the Bears and how they plan on using him. I think he could be an every down back. From what I'm hearing from just other people listening to their camps and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting to see. They still have Cohen, who is the pass catching back. He could get some carries. So you never really know with touchdowns there. I'll lean wide receiver 1, obviously, towards Noah because Hopkins, but it's not that big of a split with Juju. You nailed it with the wide receiver 2s being a crapshoot. Landry is probably going to get Noah 5 or 6 points, I would assume, unless he just happens to score a touchdown.
Those 5 points are going to come from 10 catches for 5 yards, just letting you know, Noah. So that's where those 5 points are going to come from. That's what you get with Jarvis Landry.
But you have T.Y. Hilton now playing against a really good Chargers defense.
Dude, Cameron Hayward? One of the best... Wait. Casey Hayward. Wait, is that the corner for the Chargers? I don't know. I just know the Chargers have 2 of the top tier corners in the NFL, and I think T.Y. is going to get locked up this week.
So I think you nailed it with the tight end matchup. It's going to be really close.
Yeah.
I personally like the defensive matchup with the Chargers versus the Eagles. I think Noah has the edge there with the Eagles playing against the Redskins.
Yeah.
But the Chargers are playing against Indy, which is not a bad team. It's still a very well built team, just without a quarterback really. So that'll be a good matchup. I'm gonna lean towards Michael's team. ESPN still has it at a close game. Michael has a 51% win probability versus Noah, but we shall see. We shall see. And then you picked Michael as well, correct?
Oh yeah.
So our last game of the week is my team versus Cody. So I'll let you dive into that one.
Yeah, I mean, big factor, Zeke's back. So I think that's going to help Cody tremendously. So that makes things way more interesting because without Zeke, I thought you were going to come away and absolutely demolish Cody. But let's look at the matchups. Okay, so Cody's rolling out Carson Wentz against Washington. I mean, I like that coming into this week. The first week of the season, you can get a former MVP candidate going against probably one of the worst teams in the NFL. I think Carson Wentz is going to feast, but on the other hand, you got Russell Wilson going against Cincinnati, #rebuild mode. So I would almost put these quarterbacks at a draw. So when it comes to running back, Christian McCaffrey versus Zeke, I'm going to give the edge to McCaffrey. And the reason why is Zeke's been gone. I don't think he's going to get a ton of carries this week. I think he's going to get about 10 to 15 carries or touches in total. And I just don't think that he's going to put up usual Zeke numbers just because his first week back, only been with the team for a couple of days. So I'm going to give McCaffrey the edge with that. Nick Chubb versus Tevin Coleman. I don't even want to talk about this. Nick Chubb all the way. Nick Chubb, I think, is one of the top 5 running backs in the league right now in fantasy football. So going against Tevin Coleman, that's almost a joke. Brandon Cooks versus Odell. I'm going to give Cody the edge with Odell. I mean, Odell's one of the best receivers in the league. I think Odell's going to feast this week, his first game as a Brown. But on the other hand, though, Brandon Cooks isn't that bad of a receiver. I mean, he's a top 10, top 15 receiver. And at the second receiver spot, as long as Keenan Allen's healthy, Keenan Allen's a beast, man. I mean, Keenan Allen, Cody has 2 guys who can finish in the top 10. For sure, Odell, and then Keenan Allen, if he stays healthy. To Cody, I mean, end of matchup, I like Keenan Allen against the Colts. I think the Colts have a good secondary, but not a great secondary, so I think Keenan Allen's going to do good. But on the other hand, Julian Edelman, I think the Steelers and Patriots are going to be a shootout, so I think Edelman's going to get his too, so I'd put them at a draw as well. Here's why I think you have a really good edge. Evan Ingram over Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry hasn't played in a couple of years. I think Evan Ingram is going to feast. I think he's going to be, I think he might end up being one of the top 3 tight ends. I think he might take one to place of Elton Kittle at the end of the year. It just depends because, Evan Ingram, whenever he plays, he's money. And then at flex, Fournette against Kenny Golladay. I'm giving you the edge with Fournette. Fournette's healthy. He's going into the season against a guy, Kenny Golladay. He's good. I like the Lions against, I like the Lions receivers against the Cardinals defensive backs, but, you got to take the guy who you know is going to get 20 carries this week, and that's going to be Fournette. But looking at y'all's teams overall, it's really close to me, honestly. I give Cody the edge at receiver, but I give you the edge at running back. But I think your receivers are good enough where you're going to come ahead, and I think a 15-point victory is for certain this week for you.
That'll be interesting. Now that Zeke's come back, it's made it a very interesting game.
It really has.
So we shall see. I know we didn't mention it, and I don't want to smite Cody's team a little bit, but going back to the draft, now we have Tevin Coleman, who is second on the depth chart. I think there's going to be a lot of carries, obviously, to go around for everyone on that team.
It's very interesting that Cody, his second drafted running back, isn't even starting this week in Damian Williams. I know Shady McCoy has a lot to do with that, but I think that's going to be... I think Cody might regret benching Damian Williams. But Cody's proved us wrong before.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. You got Damian Williams going against Jacksonville, and you got Tevin Coleman going against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, you want to.
I think it's the right start. I'm just saying. I think long term, it's going to be interesting for Cody to see how he overcomes that or how exactly that plays out. But as far as this matchup goes, I agree with you. It's really stinking close. It kind of makes me a little nervous now that Zeke's freaking back. And
yeah.
So, and honestly, I have no idea how many carries they're going to give him. They could give him 25 carries.
Yeah.
I mean,
you can get anywhere from 10 to 25 this week. I really don't know.
So it's a crapshoot again. I have no idea what to expect. So,
but yeah, I mean, that's our weekly predictions for this week. We hope that y'all enjoyed this episode. I know it's going to be pretty long, almost an hour, but we want to give y'all a lot of quality content to get you through this week. We don't want y'all to be depressed. We want y'all to be happy. Football's back. We're excited. Next week, we're going to get into our weekly routine. We're going to have the same segments every single week to be able to keep a good, a good quality schedule for ourselves. But next week, we're going to get into our regular schedule. We just kind of wanted to do a post-draft analysis, kind of break down the team, think how the teams are going to play out throughout the season. But, man, I'm excited. Football's back, man. Are you pumped?
Dude, I'm super excited. We got Packers and Bears tonight.
Woo!
Super, super excited for this season. Like Corbin said, we'll get into our routine following this week, but and the videos will be much shorter. We recognize.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get it to about 30 minutes. But I mean, this episode we had to break down every single team, so we knew it was gonna take a while. But we know that y'all guys are gonna be supporting us. Please subscribe if you haven't already yet. We want to thank our sponsor, Texas A&M University, for providing us with this amazing studio, Gigamags. We also want to thank ESPN for hosting our league for all these years. And then we also want to thank, what's our last sponsor? Cody's mom. We want to thank Cody's mom for this always showing love and just embracing us with open arms. And we love you, Tara.
So that's the end of our video. We'll see how the matchups go this week.